Hello, this is Yayoi Komiyama from Brain to Belly, and welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on your respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So, welcome everyone. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Glenna, and she's a relatively new friend of mine. Yes. And she is the founder of the Rise and Reclaim Network, Healing from Religious Trauma and a Life of Freedom. And we are both in a program called Catapult in Facebook, and that's how we met. And I love her mission. I love her passion. And I wanted her to come here and share her thoughts and how healing and thoughts really apply to everything in life, how we think about ourselves, and how that creates action within ourselves, how we feel. And it's I always say the think, feel, do, have, and her group is really about all of that, and she is a testament to really getting through the trauma and moving forward. So that's why I invited her. And Glenna, welcome today.
Thank you so much, Yayoi. I love that intro music. I don't know if anyone else could hear it, but I thought I was at a club for a second.
I know, I'm dancing all the time.
Yeah, it's like 3, 2, 1. Like, oh, okay. We're
Well,
on.
it gets me going too, so in a good
That's what
way.
I was thinking. That was so fun. Anyway, thank
Yeah.
you so much, Yayoi. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and your fam here, and everyone that watches your channel knows you are a bright, shining star, full of joy. Every time I see you, you're bubbly. And I mean, I'm sure you have your moments, but I just adore you. And
Oh,
you really bring out the best in people. It's beautiful. So thank you
oh,
so much. This means a
thank
lot to me.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So I do have a Facebook group called the Rise and Reclaim Network. So I don't know if you want to start there or,
Yeah,
gosh,
please.
where do we start, right?
We could start there and why you created the group and your personal journey. Yeah, we could just start with all of that.
Okay, perfect. So yes, I felt I know I have a mission to help other women. Let me start with just a little bit about myself. I am a mom of 4 grown children, and I have 4 grandbabies. And yes, I am divorced. And I started this group after I went through my own healing journey. I had a life filled with trauma, sexual abuse, from a young age. I came from a home that was extremely dysfunctional and violent. And then I hope I could say, can I say certain things here?
Say anything.
Okay. I was raped several times as a teenager. And then I got into the church. That actually started when I was around 8 or 10. I was, my dad, who was not a nice man, was remarried to a woman who was also not nice, very abused by her, verbally, emotionally, physically. My dad was absent, very angry man. But ironically, they found Jesus at that time. And it's interesting because even as a young child, I saw them holding Bible studies and being very religious, and yet at home, there was violence and abuse. So even at a young age, I knew that was something was off about that. But real quickly, I remember at the age of around 10 or 11, my dad taking me to see this movie called A Thief in the Night. And some of anyone out here watching who in the 70s or 80s was really big into this Jesus movement, and everyone at that time talked about the rapture and Jesus coming back at any moment. And I had to watch this movie and it was talking about the tribulation, and I watched people's heads being cut off on a guillotine and children screaming and blood everywhere. I was like 10 years old. I had PTSD from that, Yayoi, for real. I had nightmares. I couldn't sleep. Every time a fire alarm would go off or I'd hear a horn blow, I just had this physical reaction. Like I thought it was the end of the world. And I lived in that fear of going to hell, making bad decisions. Was I on the right path? It was just a constant. I was in fight or flight, like fight or flight every day of my life. It was very scary. And then I got into the church as I got older. I was in purity culture, got married very young, just to really to keep an image in the family and in the church that I was going to be pure. So I married someone that I really shouldn't have, but I was forced to. And I was married for 32 years before I got divorced. And that's really when my deconstruction of my religion started. I had repressed all of my traumas, thinking in a church that if I just prayed it away or, cried enough and asked Jesus to take it from me, that I would be whole and well, but that was not the case at all. And what my catalyst was for me is my physical body started breaking down from all the repressed trauma. Yes, I had anxiety disorder. Yes, I had PTSD. Yes, I had depression. I wasn't getting it treated because the church told me it was demonic. Right. So it was my fault that these things were happening to me. And then my body developed this neurological condition, and I was invalidated by doctor and doctor and doctor. I couldn't walk for about 4 years. Finally, a very prestigious neurologist from Duke University diagnosed me with a condition called functional neurological disorder. Long story short, statistically, it's a neurological condition that comes from, mostly women have it, and also it's from a lot of stored and repressed trauma. And once I realized the connection between traumas and not dealing with those things and healing from these things and how every area of your body is affected, we think that we're all these separate entities. And being a registered nurse myself, so focused on the physical aspect, right? That it's so, our world, especially westernized culture, we're so just focused on the physical bodies and the symptoms, but we don't get to the root causes. Yes. And our spirituality, our emotions, our, mental health, physical body is all connected. And you can't just work on one and ignore the other. Exactly. And so when my body, I was very distraught and angry about that at the time. But now I look back and I'm thankful that the universe did this for me, because it was time for me to say, wait a second. Okay. Yeah. It is time to deal with all of this. Okay. And that's why I opened this Facebook group called Rise and Reclaim Network. And I developed it to provide a safe space for women who have been through these traumas. What I've found is women who have been through these traumas, they have very little self-worth. They struggle with identity crisis. Yes. A need for purpose. They wonder now, why am I here? Then everything I thought is not true. Then what is true? And it is a crisis. It is traumatic. So yes. There's a lot of gaslighting that goes on. And I wanted to create this group where women could feel supported, that they had a safe place to talk, where other people might not understand or would invalidate them. I wanted to make sure they had a place to go where they would find someone to listen and understand their story. And what makes me, I feel, so unique is that I understand the depth of women's journeys. Yeah. Because as a registered nurse in women's health with a master's degree, my background speaks for itself, but then my personal experience and just I can help women walk through this in a different level and perspective than a lot of other therapists or clients or coaches,
Yeah.
Good. So I think it's a good combination, you know?
Yes, definitely, because you've experienced it yourself and you've come through. You're at the other end. So when somebody is struggling, you know what it's really like. You know the pain. And I think the people that have experienced it, and even if you're like not all the way healed, you're still at the point where you've come out the other end. You're still at the other end of the tunnel. And that makes such a difference. And it's such an inspiration for people that are struggling.
Yeah.
And to know that she did it, so I can do it, and she can guide me because she knows all the feelings that I'm going through. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's what a lot of people need. And I know that women, especially, that have been through trauma and abuse, um, want to know that it's safe because we're terrified. I know the feeling of walking on eggshells every day and not knowing when a burst of anger is going to hit you, and then you think that it's all your fault. You think that
Yeah.
you deserve all this, and being you know being through something similar, I can understand that feeling. And every day you're not sure. You wake up and you're like, okay, when's that attack going to hit you? When is that? When are they going to do this or do that? So you're always like in this tense protective mode, and you're
Yes.
walking around all tense, like you were saying. And
Yes.
I totally understand that. And I know that there are many women out there that can use a safe haven, use a place where it's safe so that they can, be with others who can help them, just a place that they can just be and be themselves and
Yes.
relax their shoulders, relax their breath, actually breathe, because I totally get it. It's you're not breathing. You're like all tense and you're walking through life and you're like, what's going on? What's going on? And you don't know where that attack is going to come from. And it could come from anywhere. And that fear it's
Yeah.
so real and it's so
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
And living like that for years is not a way to live.
No.
And so I
Yeah, the
applaud you.
fear is
Yeah.
something that the term religious trauma syndrome, it hasn't been added to the DSM yet, but I know it will be soon because it's gaining traction with therapists and it's becoming, um, it's been coined this phrase of deconstruction. I don't know if you've heard that. It's a word that's being thrown around, but
Hmm.
so one out of three people by the time they're 30 years old have left their religion, have left Christianity specifically. That's where I came out of, and I'm not putting a blanket statement that all Christians are in cults or anything like
Yes.
that. That's
Hmm.
not what I'm saying. I want to make sure.
Yeah.
The sect I was in was. Now that's different. And there's
Yeah.
so many different
Oh,
offshoots of it, right?
yes.
Where
Yes.
I came from, it was a cult. It was very fear-based, high control religion. That was the idea behind it, is to terrify you every day of the fear of hell. And that's how they control you.
Yes.
And as a woman growing up, just being even in my own family with my parents, and they they cared more about hating each other than loving me. I don't think they even knew where I was half the time. It was a tumultuous, scary. I mean, police and guns and hanging people trying to hang themselves, and it was just. I learned to disassociate and really
Yeah.
just shut down. And and then the church taught me to do the same thing. As a woman, my role was to only speak when I was spoken to. In church, according to the Bible, women are not allowed to speak in church. They're not allowed to teach or preach, and they need permission to speak. So I always felt like I needed the pastor, the bishop, or the elder, whoever, to tell me
Mhm.
if it's okay to not only speak, but make decisions on I couldn't even make my own decisions without getting permission.
Wow.
And then it was my husband, and then my children, and then others. And then where am I in this situation? And that's what happened. I got to a point where literally my body, everything broke down. I lost my marriage. I deconstructed from my religion, and I was so deep into this. It wasn't like I just showed up on church, Christmas and Easter.
This was your life, yeah.
This was my identity.
Yeah.
And I would have died on that hill if I would have, that I was correct and everyone else was wrong and I was right. Oh, it was painful to say, but so yeah, I was just taught to put my own needs aside. Self-care was selfish. Wanting your own needs, thinking about what you want, your dreams, your hopes, career. As women, we were taught not to bother going to college because our roles were to have babies and stay home and advance the kingdom of God, have as many children as you can to serve in the army of God. I look back now and I'm like, what does that even mean? There's so many things now. I look back and I'm like, what the heck? I don't even know what that means.
But, if you're not exposed to other things, you wouldn't know any better, and that is what part of this, some of these teachings do, is what they do is teachings, and even in a family environment, in little organizations, which are families like a small organization, if you're taught one thing and that's the only thing you're taught, that's all you know. Exactly. And if you're not allowed to see outside, you don't know that anything else exists. You don't know what's right or wrong. That's it. So,
yes, you hit it.
And that is the way that a lot of people control other people, by not showing them what else is outside. Because if you don't know what's outside, you're not going to want anything else.
Oh gosh, this is so true, because now that I have lost my religion, I've always been an extremely deep spiritual person, and I still am. And I love that about myself. And now I'm able to explore so many different modalities, and I'm interested in everything and everyone, and what are you doing and what's working for you, and tell me more about that. But when I was in the church, we were taught that anyone outside of the church were evil, filled with demons. We should be afraid of them. Don't go near them. Don't let them touch you, because if they lay hands on you, they're laying hands, and they're a conduit for demons, right?
Right.
I was told, I went to Reiki once. My girlfriend was a Reiki practitioner. She was in school for it. And so she did it on me. And I was told that I needed deliverance from that after that. So I've got some wild stories. Yeah, you guys are just, it would knock your socks off to believe that the things that I was told. But so yeah, those harmful messages. And that was the other reason, actually, we were encouraged not to go to college, because that was the secular world. Like, stay away from the secular world, because they're going to lead you astray. That's how you're going to end up in sin. You're going to lose your salvation. And so we were very afraid of anything outside of this cult.
Yeah.
And so exactly what you said, now that I'm free to see outside of that and speak to other people. And I just said the other day, I have met, now that I've left the church, the most beautiful humans and souls that I have ever met inside the church, I have met outside the church. And I cannot be so more grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, when you told us about that, I was thinking, curiosity is the thing that they try to suppress. And curiosity is, gosh, the essence of growth in humans, and not just humans, but in any group of people or organizations, organisms, right? It's really, curiosity is what's the spark that opens up things, Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. And that was what allowed me to start on my deconstructed journey, because that's another thing I was taught, not to ask questions,
Right.
because if you ask questions, you're told that if you're questioning the Bible or questioning the word, then you don't have enough faith. So you need to pray more. You need to be in the word more. You need to, are you
Hmm.
tithing? Did
Right.
you watch something you shouldn't have and let, evil into your mind? Like, you're so gaslit, no matter what it is, it comes back to you. You're the problem. And so I never felt permission to ask questions, but I'm a very curious person and I'm a lifelong learner. So it went against everything inside of me because I had
Right.
so many questions. And when I would ask questions, I would just be told, well, because there really wasn't a good answer, that's what makes God God and you not. And God's ways are higher. And so there's never really a good answer. It's still not an answer to me.
Right.
And
Right.
I finally just allowed myself to start exploring, giving my permission, exactly what you said, to be curious and ask questions. And when I wouldn't get an answer that made sense, I'd ask another question. And I started
Right.
driving people crazy with my questions.
Well, it's like little kids,
Yeah.
Um, when you talk to a kid that's very curious, it's like, why, why,
But that
and
doesn't make sense.
and, yeah, why, and but that curiosity is what makes progress. Like for
Yes.
instance,
Oh,
I was just
yes.
thinking, if
My gosh, yes.
let's say, I don't know, um, Thomas Edison didn't have any curiosity about, how things worked, we wouldn't even have electricity, right? And even all these scientists or all these medical people, professionals, like if they didn't doubt what the spores in and there's a spoiled piece of fruit was, if they didn't say, oh, maybe that could be used as something to heal people, we would never have penicillin, right?
Can
It's
you imagine? Can you
I know.
even imagine? I mean, seriously, the fact, now looking back, that we were taught not to use critical thinking,
Yeah.
not ask questions, not use critical reasoning. And one of the biggest things now I've learned is, oof, this is a big one too, not ask questions, but do not trust yourself. Do not trust your intuition. Do not trust
Oh no.
any voice, any thoughts inside of you.
No.
Do not trust it, because we're born into sin. We're born evil, horrible creatures deserving of
No.
eternal conscious torment.
No.
No, I know.
I'm like,
No,
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 sorry.
no.
I'm like, that just goes against everything I believe in and
No,
my
no,
whole
no.
nature.
Same.
And yeah,
No, I know, but it's just
and
wild.
wow,
It's
it is
wild.
wild. I mean, and I'm so happy that you've come through the other end, and found peace, because that type of living it's not living, it's
It's
just
not. Oh,
existence,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah. I
and I
just
just
constantly
yeah,
felt like a shriveled up plant in the winter, my whole life. Like, and then when I finally got to this point where I went through what I call the dark night of the soul, I had no one, absolutely no one, to, because all of my tribe, my community, still believed in the same thing, and
right,
then told me I was going to hell because I left my marriage. And my kids thought I was going crazy because my ex was saying, "Oh, your mother's mentally ill." And um, yes, I had anxiety and depression from all of my untreated trauma. So,
of
of
course,
course,
yeah,
but instead he threw that in my face and shamed me for it on top of everything else.
yeah,
But there's just so much harmful messaging
there is,
that goes on, and just that certain people can't accept their identity because the church says it's sinful or evil. Um, Women have had such harmful messages in the
yes,
church. And that is why I made this group, especially it's for women. I'm
yeah,
not saying that men haven't endured this, but the patriarchy and everything that goes along with the religious constructs and
Yes.
dogmas and all are usually, it
Yes.
affects women more than men.
I
So
agree. I
yeah.
agree. And I've seen that as well. I, I didn't grow up in any real religion. Although, see, my family religion is Buddhism, but, it's just a cultural thing and we didn't really practice it. And then for some reason, I think it just so happened that I always went to some sort of a Christian school. It was Presbyterian, Lutheran, and then Catholic. So, and then Jesuit, right? My college was a Jesuit college. So I would go to all these different institutions. So I would get a little bit of the, things that people teach, but I never really was into one or the other. And they gave me actually that I'm very fortunate that I was able to do that because it gave
Yeah.
me background and insights into what was going on around me. And and I think even in Japan, the national religion, I believe, now I'm not sure now, it could be Shintoism. Shintoism maybe is the national religion, then Buddhism is prevalent, maybe. I'm not quite sure, so don't quote me on it.
Okay.
I don't even
Oh,
know it myself. I just started,
quoting
I
you
was
right
like,
now. Okay,
yeah,
go
I was
ahead.
like,
What? No.
I wonder, yeah, I was like, I better Google that later. But anyway, um, so the culture is very much steeped in Shintoism and Buddhism because that was one of the biggest religions. And Christianity is in Japan, definitely. We have, but during our history, Japanese history, there was a period of time when Christianity was not allowed into the country. Well, any foreign Western ideas were not allowed into the country,
Sure.
and so anything that was, and if you were associated with that religion, you were persecuted,
Right.
and so a lot of that went on. And I think the persecution of religion in itself was a way for governments to control people. And back then, and it's kind of still is. I mean, look at the way, the US started. It was because a certain sect of Christianity, right? People felt that they weren't allowed to believe in their God or their thoughts were being persecuted. So they decided to move to the US. And that's how the story is anyway. I don't know the truth, but,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's how the US was founded. And that's how Plymouth Mayflower and the Plymouth Rock and all that, right? So it really started from freedom of religion, is what this country started with. So, and when you think of that word, freedom of religion, it means that all religions should be honored.
Yes. Yes.
And,
Yes. Yes.
worldwide, that's not happening at all, which is very
No.
sad because, every person's belief should be honored for what they believe in. Because I don't know, this is just my personal opinion, but I believe that each person should trust their own heart.
Yes.
And, what you believe in is what you believe in, and it should be respected as long as it doesn't hurt another person. And
Yeah. And
that's
yeah,
that's the hard
exactly.
part.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just said that. As long as it doesn't hurt someone else, or it's not harming yourself.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I always say, like, if there's something that you're doing that is bringing you joy and truly, bringing happiness and peace to your life, I am all about it. Whatever that is, if it's helping
Definitely.
you, if you're growing, if you have more love to give, if it's helping the people around you,
Yes.
I really don't care what it is you're
Yeah.
doing.
Well, because if it's coming out of real love and
Exactly. And that's the bottom line of
yeah,
everything. We came into this world, now all of this baggage from our life and our experiences and our circumstances just pile up, and we lose that purpose for which we came into this earth to
yeah,
do. It gets lost, it gets shoved down, it gets
yeah,
silenced. It's
yes,
like a wet blanket gets thrown over us. And that's
yeah.
what I don't want to see, especially for women. We've been fighting
Oh
so
God.
long. And I know you want to talk about situations in the Middle East and other countries. And we are very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to be
Yes.
born here, but I realize how narrow minded this community that I was in. And to be told that if you are not born again, saved, filled with the Holy Spirit, Jesus is not, that whole thing, you are going to hell. And one of my questions that never got answered was, okay, but what if I was born in, I don't know, some third world nation or somewhere where, no one's ever heard of
Jeez.
Christianity or
Yeah.
Jesus, or I was born into a Muslim family where that wasn't something that I was allowed to learn. I didn't have access to that. I, had to be silent and wear the,
Right.
what hope do these people have? How does that make sense? Just because I was fortunate enough to be born in New York State, where Christianity is the religion of choice, like that makes me, what? I could never ever wrap my head around that, but I always got some interesting answers,
I'm sure. I can just imagine. I'm sorry.
Interesting answers.
But I think it's really about trusting yourself, because we're all born with some sort of a conscious, some sort of characteristics, right? All of us. And that sense of, like, even as a kid, you're told, the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
And that's something that's always innate in us humans, right? We know what's right and wrong even as a kid.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You feel guilty when you're doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. For some reason, it. Like even squishing ants, you kind of feel like, no, I'm not really supposed to be squishing these ants. Or using a magnifying glass to, burn them.
Did you do that?
Yes. Well, I was curious because they said that a magnifying glass would burn something. So I was like, let me see. I'm sorry, ant. But that was my curiosity getting to me. And I knew I shouldn't be doing it, but then I wanted to experiment.
Needed to explore.
Yeah. And yes, my parents probably didn't know about it, but I felt really guilty about it. The fact that I'm talking about it now.
It's so funny that you would even remember that.
Yeah, I remember sitting on the sidewalk with my magnifying glass like this and seeing if it'll burn.
It's so funny. I think the worst thing I ever did was I drowned a wasp in a swimming pool once.
Okay.
And I felt really bad about it. I was holding it under the water and I'm watching it like kicking around. And I was like, I feel so bad. And I was probably like 5, you know what I mean? But I still remember that. It is funny.
But yeah, I think but see, that's a child's curiosity.
Right.
And
we're born with that. We're born with that. We're born with curiosity. We're born into pure love. That's who we are. That's our essence of our soul. And we're born. And we just get into these situations, unfortunately, where we end up becoming indoctrinated or brainwashed, whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of women who've been in narcissistic, abusive relationships. That's something I know a lot about as well through my work. And that is just, it's the same thing. So it may not be religious trauma, but the concept and the feelings behind it are the same. And I think it starts with, just like you said earlier, finding out who we really are at the core and allowing ourselves to ask the questions, explore, and find out who we really are. Not what everyone else tells us we are, tells us we should be, tells us what our role is.
Right.
No, it has to come from inside, and we need to make that connection again with God, spirit, universe, whatever that is, because all of the answers we need are already inside of us. And I know you know that.
Yeah.
But we're conditioned sometimes to look to other people to give us answers.
We are.
And so this has been a huge transition even for me to getting to know myself. Who is Glenna? What do I want? What are my dreams? What's important to me?
Right.
And I think we all have to start there.
Yes.
I think.
And it's really, it's really that what is important to you. And it's to go out there, explore, get hurt a little bit and find out maybe this isn't for me, or maybe this is for me. I thought, like, you try some activity, you think it might be for you, right? Like, I don't know, I'm just going to go to acting, for instance, right? You want to go get into acting, you try it, and you're like, maybe this isn't for me, right? And you learn through trial and error. And I think as a child, anything you do, you learn from trial and error how to do something,
Right.
or if you have an innate skill for that or not. Some things, like mathematics, is not my thing, right? At all. And I'll do it because I have to do it, and I learned how to do it, but it's not like something that I have joy in doing.
But
And
when is the last time you used trigonometry in your real life?
I have
Let's
no
be
freaking
real.
idea.
Or calculus. I mean, is this really that important?
No. But the thing is, some people reveal in it. I know people that love numbers, and that
No.
it brings them so much joy. It's like when I'm drawing, or when I'm using paints and colors, I'm having so much fun. Arts and crafts are like my thing, and I'm having so much fun. It's like I'm giddy. And that's how some people are with numbers, and that's their thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really finding out what your thing is, what
Yeah.
brings you joy.
So
Be-
true.
Yeah.
So
And
true.
that,
But you
yeah.
can't. So, again, coming from my background, I never felt like I could rest,
Yeah.
relax, have self care. I mean, that wasn't
Yeah.
even a phrase. I don't know what that,
I
I
know.
didn't know what that was. And I grew up this way. Even when I was young, I remember not being allowed, even on Saturday morning, I had to get up super early and start chores. I was making food and breakfast for the family before school. I'd get up at 4 o'clock. I was in junior high, um, and so it was just, if my parents saw me just sitting or listening to music or whatever, it was get up and do, like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Do something productive. And so I grew up with this feeling that my value came from serving or doing or having to do. And so I'm even learning now, like just what you're saying. What if I want to color? What if I want to paint? What if I just want to sit and watch a dumb show? I have a couple reality shows that I really enjoy now. And I used to feel guilty because I enjoyed watching this, or I want to read a book or sit there and
Right.
do literally nothing but think and connect. And
Mm-hmm.
just giving yourself that freedom, because you need to spend time with yourself
Yes.
so that you can learn what it is you love and start to accept that the beauty of that. Because if
Yeah.
we don't find that and get to heal ourselves and find our true authentic selves, we can't really
Yeah.
help anyone else in the world.
Exactly. It's really connecting with yourself, your essence first,
Yeah.
because, like you said, without knowing that, who are you? What are you teaching? Are you teaching just something that you learned verbatim from somebody that you're not really feeling and you're just spitting out? Or are you teaching something that's coming from the heart? Because what comes from the heart is really, it has to filter through your heart to really have meaning for another person. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but that's
No,
how I feel for a
yeah.
lot of things. And yeah, and then I think people, when you really look at children, when they're very, very young, they're not tainted at all. So they know, like, they'll be like, I don't understand that, and they're very vocal about it. And they'll say things that, as adults, you're like, whoa, 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 are you allowed to even say that? But they'll say, but that's so pure.
Yeah,
And,
no.
it's like, that's because nothing's filtered at that
Right.
point yet.
Yep.
And it's like the true essence of who they are, and that's important to hold on to, but it's also like you still need some filters within to survive in society. And sadly, we still need it because society still needs a few frameworks, to keep us all in tow. And
Yes, it'd
you
be
know
total chaos if there
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
something
Yeah,
to hold
and I
us
think
together.
exactly. So sometimes we have to learn that, and it's really about, but it's really about believing in yourself, in your truth. And as women, it's harder because we're always from a young age, we're told, oh, you have to listen to this person. You have to listen because he is the big person. I grew up in Japan most of my life, so that is very patriotic society.
Oh yeah,
Patriarchy
for
is very
sure.
strong.
Yeah.
And my father was the eldest son in his family.
Mm,
So that alone, puts you in a different place because you're the
mm,
eldest son's daughter, but you're only a daughter, you're not the son.
mm,
And my
mm,
father was actually, he was considered from my grandmother, felt that my father was a failure because he didn't produce an heir that was a son.
mm.
So he
Wow.
felt that shame, right?
Well,
And
and the messaging that
oh
probably
yeah,
brought to you,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
so damaging.
yeah.
Oh gosh.
And that's probably why I was a tomboy for a long time. um, and Yeah, I think, and being in a society where women are supposed to be subservient, that was the role of the woman
Yes.
in the culture that I was in. And also being born in a foreign country, and then having lots of Western ideologies in my brain as a kid, I really didn't fit in very well into that society. I was always yeah, I don't know, even from a young age, growing up in the US, I was here until I was 11. From like, I think from like 2 to 11 I was here, 11 or 12. And so those are years that you're developing your identity.
Oh yeah.
And and that was during the 70s. So you were learning about women's lib, you were learning about women being strong and being their own person. I still remember Billie Jean King fighting
Oh
what's his
gosh,
name?
yes.
Jimmy Connor, right?
Yeah,
And I remember that and I was like, oh,
me
I
too.
want Billie Jean to win, right? And I remember all of that. And then going back to Japan, I was like, I had to be more quiet. I had to
Mm.
be, less vocal about different things.
I mean, you
And
knew your role. You knew what you had to do
yeah,
depending on where you were, who you with.
exactly.
You
And
couldn't
that
you couldn't be yourself. And
exactly. So
yeah.
kind of understand where you were coming from because of that experience, because I had to hide who I was for a long time.
Yeah. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Yeah,
It's just
it's done and over with. So
I know, but it's still hurtful. And I mean, I know you've worked through all of that. We've talked about this before.
yeah,
But yeah, and like I said, it's not just religious trauma. I am focusing on that in my group and in my services because I just feel like it's something that we need to bring more
right.
awareness to.
Yes.
And when I started therapy, working through all of this, the therapists that I started with, two of them hadn't even heard of this. And they were like, wow, this is so interesting. I mean, they were very kind and tried to understand, but, they hadn't been through it, obviously, and
Right.
weren't certain about what this was all about. And so the more I went through my journey and realized I didn't have a lot of support going through it, I didn't have a community, I didn't know who to reach out to. So it was a very lonely, dark time for me
Yeah.
during this process. However, I look back and I'm really thankful because the universe just stripped everything and everyone away from me. And it felt at the time like I was going to die. Actually, there was a couple times I asked God to just let me die. Um, and thankfully he didn't because I'm still here.
Yes. Yes.
But um, it's just it's a tough place to come out of. And I think for me, it was a good thing that I was alone because it forced me
Yes.
to not go outside myself and ask anyone else. I didn't have the prophet to go to. I didn't have the
Right.
apostle to call.
Right.
Like, what do I do? Oh my gosh. I had to ask myself, me,
Yes.
myself, and I.
Yeah.
And I had to also went through a process of, okay, if this Christian God is not real, um, what is real? So it wasn't even about who am I. It was my whole universe
Yeah.
was turned upside down.
Yeah. Your whole
And
belief
my
system.
whole belief system, what I stood on,
Yeah.
this was my identity
Yeah.
in every way. So to find out again what do I believe, who is God, what is real, what is my purpose, and I think I needed to just spend that time with myself
Yes.
to start asking those questions and hear and
Yes.
trust my
Yes.
own voice and my own
Mhm.
intuition. And it's taken me time to do that. And I'm just so thankful now looking back that the universe did. He just isolated me and I
Yeah.
needed it.
Yeah. And I think it's funny how the world does that, how our universe or whatever, spirit or God or whomever will do that for us. They'll put us in situations that, kind of like nudge you to to really look inside. And I know that that kind of happened for me after my divorce. This was years ago, ages ago, but you know um I was alone. I didn't have my ex-husband's family on my,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't my support system anymore. um my ex-husband definitely wasn't. And then so I was like, what do I do? And it really took me a long time to look inside and to find that strength to say, no, I'm not going to be, squished because of that. I'm not going to let somebody take my power from me. And it was like I had to kind of like look deep inside and say, what do I want to do? Who do I want to become? And it was like I had to kind of like change my whole thinking process, my whole psychology, and my whole belief system to become the person that I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, beliefs and thoughts are where a lot of things start. So, and it's looking in here into the
Yeah,
heart.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
when you're in a situation like that, it could be geographically where you live and the
Yeah.
situation you're forced to be in. You're talking about being in Japan, talk to women who grew up in Romania, or it could be my situation. I mean, I'm here in this free country, right? But
Yeah.
still endured this. And
Yeah.
so it affects everything, your thoughts,
Hmm.
your inner beliefs, the perception of the world, perception of others. It's a identity crisis, and it
It
takes
is.
time to work through that. And I definitely see you have. I mean, you're such a strong woman who
Oh,
speaks her mind,
thank
and you
you.
are so powerful. You are a
Oh,
shining star. I mean,
oh,
truly, every time
thank you.
your energy and your presence is just so beautiful. So
Thank you.
I just admire you, and
Oh,
I think that I know you've done a lot of work, and it's beautiful to see.
oh, thank you so much. And I just wanted to say, I love that you created this group because, you know, everyone needs a safe haven, a sanctuary. And no matter what situation you're in, and giving people this option, women, this option to be in a group where they can feel safe, where they can say things is so important. And to know that no matter what they say, they're going to be loved. As long as you're
Yes,
not hurting somebody, like,
yes.
I mean, I've had situations where in my group, I've had people say nasty things to another person. I'm like, you're out, and I hate doing that. It's not a fun feeling. I'll tell you, I don't like doing that, but I don't want people to be nasty to each other either. And
Yeah,
then
you
maybe,
have to connect. You have to protect
yes.
your group and your people and what you're
Hmm.
doing, and you've built something beautiful with integrity and values, and you want to protect that. So I completely understand that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say again, this group truly, I'm here to serve and to it's my mission.
Yes.
Since I've come out of this, I want so badly now to help other women. And I really just wanted to provide a safe place. So when people come and do interviews, I
Yes.
have people that come on my group, they
Mhm.
want to, share a story, or they might be an expert in some field that they want
Right.
to provide hope, or it's someone who has been through it and now wants to shout it from the rooftops. Once you've healed and your voice has been suppressed for so long, you're like, get out of my way. I'm telling everybody,
Yep.
like, let's go. And so I have those people, which I met the best people. And then I'm also providing a small group sessions So women can come together. It's not being recorded, not going live, not,
Of
you know,
course.
and we're just there to hold space for each other. So women can feel like they can come and share safely about their experiences and have their experiences validated.
Yeah.
And so they can just be loved on and validated.
Yeah. Thank you, Glenna. So, if our viewers are interested in finding out more about you and your group, where should they go to reach out to you?
So I am at the Rise and Reclaim Network on Facebook, and you can find me there. It is a private women's only group. So I would love to have anyone that's interested in joining or wants to just raise awareness. I really believe this is a women's empowerment global movement that I'm
Yeah.
starting, and I'm just putting it out there. This is what's going to happen because women, we need each other. We are
Yeah.
fierce, we are strong, and let's get our voices out there and share our true selves and our passions. And there's no competition. We're going to grab hands. I'm going to grab yours. You're going to grab mine. And let's do this together. I'm just so excited about empowering women and other women who are wanting to do the same. And
Yes.
it's so beautiful, and collectively, there's nothing that can stop us.
Yes. And, I truly believe in a woman's power. So, and I love that you're doing this. And I thank you for being here and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. So, people, if you are interested, please join Glenna's group, or you can, go through me and Brain to Belly, and then you could tell me you want to meet Glenna, and I could introduce you. That could happen too. So, those are things that you have the option of doing, and we're both on Facebook, and so please reach out to us if any of this resonated with you. So, thank you very much, Glenna,
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
and
Appreciate
so.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so
And
much.
so this show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, thank you